Chapter 41. Food Stealing, Gold-Seeking Hamster 3. I asked you to find a single person, but you still haven't found her after so many days. What use do I have for you? Elder Rong angrily slammed his fist on the table, and that table instantly broke into smithereens within moments, making everyone who was present shudder. They could imagine the formidable power that fist would produce if it hit their body. Elder Rong, I have a plan. Within the crowd, a gray-robed man stood forward, cupping his hands in a salute, and respectfully said, "Last time, that godly doctor left an answer below the man Luo poison question, proving that she is very interested in peculiar and rare diseases, so how about we post an extremely difficult problem on the wall? If she appears and works out the solution, then we will be able to find her." Elder Rong's anger had dissipated by half, but his complexion still did not look too great. "Then we will do it as he said. In a moment, I will provide a difficult problem, and you will then post it and use it to lure her out." 4 days later. Inside the single-storied house at Yun Estate's rear mountain, young Luo Feng opened her eyes and felt the power surging out of her body, her lips curled into a bewitching smile. Early-level intermediate-rank spirit cultivator. In 4 days' time, she went from an early-level low rank to intermediate rank. If such talent was revealed, it would definitely stun the entire Long Yuan kingdom. With this last remaining dose of spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, it looks like I will need to reallocate. Never mind, I will go to the medical pavilion to try to see how much this last dose can sell for. A doctor is a profession that burns a lot of money, and merely relying on the 45 million taels that Mu Shen owes me isn't enough, young Luo Feng muttered to herself. She was about to rise from the bathtub when she suddenly discovered a small figure sticking out its tiny butt and licking the bathwater that got splashed on the floor. Even the water in the corner was not spared. "Xiao Mo, why didn't you tell me that something came in?" Young Luo Feng stared at the gluttonous little guy and asked with a raised brow. Before long, Xiao Mo's guilty and defensive voice could be heard from inside her mind. "Master, this is only a gluttonous gold-seeking hamster, attracted by this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. It isn't harmful to you, so I didn't inform you." He would never tell his own master that this hamster's presence was too weak, so he overlooked its presence. Gold-seeking hamsters like to eat spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Young Luo Feng stared at this snow-white gold-seeking hamster, the glint in her eyes slightly turned a few rounds. What gold-seeking hamster eats isn't spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, what it likes to eat are medicinal herbs. Moreover, it relies on medicinal herbs to increase its strength. However, this gold-seeking hamster hasn't eaten medicinal herbs before, so up until now, its strength is still very low. "Master, this time, you found a treasure." Xiao Mo's voice was very excited. The lineage of this gold-seeking hamster is very pure. If you bring it with you, it can help you discover extremely valuable medicinal herbs. Of course, you need to be cautious. The gold-seeking hamster is voracious, so if you let it search for medicinal herbs, it will eat it all. The only ability of gold-seeking hamster is to discover precious medicinal herbs. Of course not. Gold-seeking hamster's own strength is also very strong. Its teeth can bite and break the toughest and most durable sword in the world. Its claw can dig through the general estate within 2 hours. Because it has a small body and sharp teeth, even if it fights with spirit beasts like jackals and wolves, it still wouldn't be in a disadvantageous position. The premise is that the gold-seeking hamster is allowed to grow. Xiao Mo became more excited the more he talked. However, if you want to strengthen a gold-seeking hamster, the amount of medicinal herbs that you have to invest will be as high as a mountain. This is also precisely why there aren't many people on this continent who can successfully nurture powerful gold-seeking hamsters. Because of this, the world generally believes that gold-seeking hamsters level up slowly and possess weak strength. Young Luo Feng grew silent, however, the pair of bewitching eyes staring at the gold-seeking hamster brightly shone. Chapter 42. Food Stealing, Gold-Seeking Hamster 4. "Master, you have a cheat, you have a cheat. It's difficult for common medicinal herbs to nurture a gold-seeking hamster, but you have spiritual herbs. If you let it use spiritual herbs as food, it will rapidly grow." In this continent, the ordinary, younger generation of nobles would tame 1 or 2 spirit beasts to be their companions. In the past, it was not that young Luo Feng did not have that type of notion, but since she did not possess a smidgen of power, even if someone else from the Yun family tamed the spirit beast for her, there would eventually be a day when that spirit beast would betray her. The gold-seeking hamster, who was happily eating, finally felt her gaze on its body, so it stiffly turned its head little by little. In a split second, it met a pair of nefariously smiling eyes. Squeak. The gold-seeking hamster squealed, and within an instant, it wanted to charge towards the doorway. However, before it could dart out, it was picked up by one hand and placed on the other hand. Squeak, squeak, squeak. In Yun Luofeng's hand, the gold-seeking hamster struggled twice, and then it bit Yun Luofeng's fingers. However, Yun Luofeng's skin did not even break under its assault, and her bewitching eyes were intently staring at it with a faint smile in them. The hamster finally lost all hope and gave up on struggling. Its expression filled with despondency, it could already imagine its miserable shape when it turned into a hamster meal. Little guy, how about following me? Just when the gold-seeking hamster was despondent to the point of being disinclined to budge, Yun Luofeng slowly opened her mouth to ask. The gold-seeking hamster's expression was revived. It blinked its eyes and blankly watched the exceedingly beautiful girl with her demonic smiling expression. What did she mean by that? It did not have to be turned into a hamster meal. I know you can understand my words. Follow me and you can have medicine to eat every day. How about it? If an average person heard you say that they would have medicine to eat every day if they followed you, then they would certainly give you a round of beating. But the gold-seeking hamster was different. After hearing Yun Luofeng's words, that pair of pitch-black eyes lit up, hurriedly and fiercely nodded its head, and squeaked once. Then I will give you a name. Yun Luofeng played with the gold-seeking hamster in her hands, her eyes revealing an evil smiling expression. Seeing that your color is similar to milk, I will call you Milk Tea from now on. Squeak. The gold-seeking hamster responded with a sound. As long as there was medicine to eat every day, it did not mind whatever name she gave it. This spirit-gathering medicinal liquid is what was left over from my use. It is not too useful in increasing your strength. Soon, I will go to the medical pavilion to help you buy some herbal ingredients. However, Yun Luofeng paused, when you follow me from here on out, you cannot have any reservations. For instance, when you pick up some medicinal herbs from outside, you must first bring it back to me. After saying these words, Yun Luofeng hid milk tea into her sleeve and strode out of the room. 4 days. She had been in seclusion for an entire 4 days. Within these 4 days, besides Yun Xiao, who tended to her meals, and second uncle, who needed her to use acupuncture to treat his legs, she had not seen anyone else. Young miss, you finally appear. When the maid, Qingyan, saw Yun Luofeng walking down the rear mountain, she quickly walked up, hurriedly reporting, young miss, that Mu Shen came again. Mu Shen, he has already gathered 45 million taels. Yun Luofeng lightly touched her chin, saying, Qingyan, I need to go to medical pavilion right now. Let him leave the money behind, and as for anything else, let him wait for me in the rear court tomorrow. It was already quite late, so she did not have time to pay attention to Mu Shen. Qingyan blankly stared for a moment. Soon after, she saw Yun Luofeng heading towards the rear door, and her big eyes filled with confusion. Ever since young miss had failed to commit suicide, it was as though her change was just too extreme. Her previous self would chase after Crown Prince His Highness all day long, but the current her would instead run towards the medical pavilion all day long. Chapter 43. Causing a commotion in the entire city. 1. This time, Yun Luofeng did not directly head to the medical pavilion. When she was not far from the medical pavilion, taking advantage that no one was paying attention, she rapidly disappeared into an alley and put on the previously prepared snow-white muslin to cover her face, hiding half of her appearance. Unless someone very familiar showed up, common people definitely would not discover her true identity. Milk tea, hide in my sleeve and don't come out. After finishing everything, Yun Luofeng put milk tea, who had its tiny head poking out, back inside, her lips rising into an enticing curve. Currently, my strength isn't strong enough. Thus, I can't let anyone know the one who possesses the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid is me. Otherwise, I'm afraid that without waiting for me to become strong, that dog emperor will casually plant a criminal charge to implicate 9 of my familial relations. Xiao Mo understood the reason behind Yun Luofeng's statement, so this time, he did not say anything. After Yun Luofeng left these words behind, she headed towards the boisterous medical pavilion. Ah, little sister, did you come to my medical pavilion to buy medicinal herbs? Look at this precious appearance, afraid of people seeing it, so even your face isn't exposed. Just as young Luo Feng stepped into the medical pavilion, a charming laughter traveled to her. This was a woman with an exceedingly beautiful appearance. Her beauty and young Luo Feng's beauty were two kinds of zenith. Young Luo Feng was beautiful enough to be peerless and overturn countries. Her bewitching charm and languidness were accompanied by a nobleness that prevented people from daring to approach her. On the other hand, this woman bared her breasts and her stomach, and every frown and every smile had 10,000 types of amorous feelings, as though a single glance could steal someone's soul away. Let's not talk about men, even women who heard her beguiling voice would feel their entire body becoming weak and numb, unable to move. Of course, if it was only relying on appearance, then it was definitely young Luo Feng's win. However, this woman's flirtatious behavior was incomparable. Is shopkeeper Lin not here? With a curl of her lips, young Luo Feng looked at this flirtatious woman walking towards her with her tiny swaying waist. Shopkeeper Lin was Lin Xiao, who had always been welcoming young Luo Feng. Since receiving the customers of medical pavilion had always been carried out by Lin Xiao, this woman did not suspect young Luo Feng's words. Ha ha ha, the woman charmingly and lightly chuckled, stroking her hair coquettishly as she said, "For my medical pavilion's improved performance, this period of time, it is I who shall receive all the customers. Little sister, you can tell this older sister what you need, and this older sister will properly accommodate you. I heard that your medical pavilion accepts medicinal liquid, so I want to ask how much this medicinal liquid that I have is worth." Young Luo Feng held out the porcelain bottle in her hands, gently undulating it. "Little sister, can you tell me about this medicinal liquid's effects?" The woman took the porcelain bottle from young Luo Feng's hand. That smile became increasingly charming and moving. "It's a spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, which can allow spirit cultivators' cultivation attain twice the result with half the effort. However, this medicinal liquid is only useful for those below high-level spirit cultivator. Once the spirit cultivator's level reaches high level, it will lose its effectiveness." The smile on the woman's face froze, even her breathing became slightly heavier. "You are saying this is a spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, and it can help spirit cultivators cultivate?" "That's right, it indeed has an effect on spirit cultivators below high level. Its specific usage is to mix this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid with water, then the spirit cultivator soaks in this water while cultivating, and it can help them gather spirit energy." Young Luo Feng nodded, confirming the woman's question. Following the young girl's words, the charming look on the woman's face had completely disappeared and was replaced by a solemn one. "Little sister, I can't make the decision for this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid on my own. How about this, I will go ask Elder Rong, and it will be our Elder Rong who will decide what price to give you, is that all right?" Chapter 44. Causing a commotion in the entire city too. Translator. Zen_editor, Yukira_. All right. Young Luo Feng nodded. "I hope you can be a bit quick, I'm in a hurry." Hearing these words, the woman did not delay and quickly ran towards the inner court. If that anxious expression was seen by those who were unaware, they would think something serious had happened to her. In the inner court, Elder Rong, who was conversing with a middle-aged man, was interrupted by the sound of a door swinging open. He tightly knitted his brows, and only after seeing the charming woman quickly advancing towards him did his expression somewhat ease. "Yar, why are you this flustered?" Fang Ya quickly stepped to stand in front of Elder Rong. "Elder Rong, just now, there was a young lady who came to sell a medicinal liquid. Because I could not make the decision, I came here to ask Elder Rong." "Medicinal liquid? This matter, you deciding is enough, you don't need to ask for my opinion." Elder Rong shook his head and spoke with some impatience. If the other party was not Fang Ya, he probably would have gotten angry already. "It's like this, Elder Rong, that old guy of mine allowed me to come here for a hands-on learning experience. However, the fund that was given to me was not much, so I am afraid my money cannot buy this medicinal liquid, so I came here to ask Elder Rong." "What?" Elder Rong stood up, shocked. "You said your available funds cannot buy a dose of medicinal liquid. Tell me first, just what is that medicinal liquid? I remember you have a few million taels of money on hand, right?" Although Fang Ya said she came here to learn, but she was at least that old guy's granddaughter, so how was it possible for that old guy to not give her a few million taels? Adding to the few million taels that she could mobilize in the medical pavilion, why couldn't she buy a dose of medicinal liquid? "Elder Rong, that dose of medicinal liquid is spirit-gathering medicinal liquid." Fang Ya's voice was fraught with excitement. It is said that it can allow spirit cultivators below high-level spirit cultivators to cultivate for twice the result with half the effort. Just think, in Long Yuan Kingdom, middle-level spirit cultivators are the most common. Especially those royals and nobles, who wouldn't want to cultivate even faster. If we can get a dose of this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, don't tell me we actually have to worry about not selling it for a good price. Elder Rong completely blanked out. It was a good thing that he had lived for many years, so his temperament was not as impetuous as Fang Ya's. Thus, he suppressed his heart's excitement and stretched out his arm towards her. Hand that spirit-gathering medicinal liquid over. I need to see if it really has this effect. Fang Ya finally reacted, hurriedly placing the porcelain bottle in her hands in front of Elder Rong. This is the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Elder Rong shakily extended his hand, grasping the porcelain bottle in front of him. He slowly opened the lid, placing it under the tip of his nose for a sniff. After a while, a wave of fragrant scent wafted up, making his mind jolt and his entire body extremely relaxed. This spirit-gathering medicinal liquid really has the effect of helping to cultivate. Elder Rong inhaled deeply. Don't look at his current overly calm expression, his inside had actually long been incessantly turbulent. However, this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid has a flaw. I could feel it just now, its medicinal effects are too potent. Even if it has spirit-gathering effects, it can't be consumed, otherwise, it will undoubtedly cause death. Fang Ya slightly paused, suddenly dawning on her that Elder Rong had misunderstood her meaning, so she hurriedly explained, Elder Rong, this isn't for oral consumption, rather it is used for making a medicinal bath. Spirit cultivators cultivating while bathing in it can have the result of gathering spirit energy. So it is actually like this. Elder Rong suddenly understood, his mind was brimming with excitement. Yar, we must buy this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. I will now give you the authority to mobilize 10 million taels in the medical pavilion, and while you are at it, you will ask this young lady if she has any more of this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. We will buy as much as she has. Chapter 45. Causing a commotion in the entire city 3. Yes, Elder Rong. After saying these words, Fang Ya withdrew. Inside the main hall of the medical pavilion, young Luo Feng, who was currently anxiously waiting, saw Fang Ya quickly approaching. After seeing the gleam of excitement on the other person's face, she knew this business transaction was a success. Little sister, Fang Ya took a deep breath and walked towards young Luo Feng. Your spirit-gathering medicinal liquid has already been confirmed by Elder Rong. Our medical pavilion will buy it for 10 million taels. 10 million taels. Young Luo Feng was stunned. The spirit-gathering medicinal liquid that only took 800 taels to produce could actually be sold for 10 million taels. This money was too easy to earn. Fang Ya saw her expression and thought she was not satisfied with this price. With a bit of anxiousness in her heart, she said, Little sister, our medical pavilion offered a very reasonable price, but I'll also come clean with you. Once our medical pavilion obtains this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, we will double the price to sell it to others. However, this type of business is what our medical pavilion is engaged in, and we make a profit from the price difference. Young Luo Feng regained her wits and smiled wickedly. I thought it was easy for me to make money, I didn't expect that your medical pavilion is even darker. Fang Ya's face reddened. Although this sentence was the truth, having been told like this by someone, she would still feel some embarrassment in her heart. However, young Luo Feng didn't make things more difficult for her. After all, if she wanted to sell this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, she could only do it through medical pavilion's route. Otherwise, she would face the danger of her identity being exposed. Little sister, from now on, if you have any more spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, you can continue to come to my medical pavilion to sell it, I will give you an even more reasonable price. Fang Ya winked at young Luo Feng. Now does little sister happen to be free? Go out to have dinner with big sister. A doctor who could take out a spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, she must befriend no matter what. I don't have time. Young Luo Feng snatched the bank notes from Fang Ya's hands and turned around to depart after leaving behind this sentence. Watching the silhouette of her retreating back, Fang Ya smiled helplessly. What a domineering little sister. If this type of people belong to my medical pavilion, then my medical pavilion's strength will become even more formidable. Having said that, Fang Ya decided to head towards the inner court, but at this point, her footsteps abruptly halted, and her beautiful eyes widened while looking at one of the questions on the problem-solving wall. Who answered this question? This question was the extremely difficult problem that Elder Rong found earlier for the purpose of baiting the person who resolved the Man Luo flower poison problem. Therefore, these few days, Fang Ya had been paying attention to this problem, but she did not think that the one time that she left for not too long, the question would have already been answered by someone. Hearing Fang Ya's words, one of the servants in the medical pavilion responded with one sentence, "Fang Ya Darren, the problem was answered by that veiled girl whom you just received." This servant's position in the medical pavilion was not high, so she naturally did not know the importance of this matter. Thus, even though she noticed young Luo Feng answered the problem, she did not promptly tell Fang Ya. Fang Ya's body shook once, her heart endlessly regretting even more. If she knew it would be like this earlier, she would have kept that little girl here earlier. Now, in this vast sea of people, where was she supposed to find that person? The efficiency of medical pavilions' handling of affairs was extremely high. Within a day, the matter about the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid was already spread throughout the entire city's big streets and small alleys, causing a commotion in the entire imperial city of Long Yuan Kingdom. Crown Prince Estate. Inside the courtyard, the sound of zither sweetly lingered. Gao Ling intently watched that absolutely stunning girl play the zither, his gaze containing boundless gentleness. That type of gentleness was something that he would never have when he faced Yun Luo Feng. Towards Yun Luo Feng, he only had revulsion. Chapter 46. Causing a commotion in the entire city. 4. One song ended. Mu Wuxuang stopped her hand's movements. Her tender-hearted eyes gazed at that man, who was focused on her, with lowered brows and a light smile. "Crown Prince, Your Highness, are you aware of Long Yuan Kingdom's recent incident? Are you referring to the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid?" Gao Ling was well aware of the meaning behind Mu Wuxuang's words. This spirit-gathering medicinal liquid is indeed very miraculous, and on top of medical pavilion's authentication, it won't go wrong. If Wuxuang likes it, this crown prince will buy it for you. How is that? Mu Wuxuang hesitated for quite a while before slowly saying, "Crown Prince, Your Highness, I heard General Yun also wants to buy that spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. He is currently borrowing money everywhere. The spirit-gathering medicinal liquid is too expensive. If Yun Luo Feng can cultivate, yielding to her is of no consequence, but the problem is that she can't even become a spirit cultivator, so what is the use of wanting that spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? Wouldn't that be such a waste? Wuxuang, rest assured that I will issue an order to the ministers of Long Yuan Kingdom later that no one is allowed to lend money to the general estate. Whose fault is it that a prodigal daughter appeared in the general estate? I even heard Yun Luo Feng had completely squandered all of Yun family's wealth away, causing General Yun to fly into a terrible rage." Gao Ling coldly snorted, his expression disdainful. "It's fortunate that I broke off my engagement with that waste, otherwise, there would eventually be a day when my crown prince estate would be entirely squandered away by her." Mu Wuxuang was full of smiles, even her brows contained mirth. "Crown Prince, Your Highness, because of you, Yun Luo Feng's reputation is in tatters and also this pitiful. So I want to find a marriage for her. When the time comes, I will also need Crown Prince to help me." Just thinking of that peerlessly beautiful face, Mu Wuxuang hated it so much that she bit her lips and gritted her teeth in anger. So she will definitely find a marriage for that woman. A marriage that would at the very least make her want to die instead of living. "Wuxuang, I will let you handle this matter." Gao Ling gently gazed at Mu Wuxuang. "Initially, I did not want to care about that trash's life or death, but since you spoke for her, I will make a decision this time. If it weren't for your help, with Yun Luofeng's constitution, she wouldn't be able to find someone willing to marry her in her entire life." Mu Wuxuang's smile became exceedingly more beautiful. At that moment, when Gao Ling was not looking, her pair of eyes flashed with malice. "Yun Luofeng, you will always be inferior to me. Your innate skill is inferior to mine, your ability is inferior to mine, even your ability to control men is also inferior to mine. In this lifetime, I will live auspiciously, living a life that everyone will envy, while you only deserve to stand at the lowest point, looking up at my existence. The one whom I will marry will be the noblest in the world, while you actually need me to pick a husband for you. As for the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, I must also obtain it. And you don't even have the right to drink my bathwater." In Yun Residence's study, Yun Luofeng was immediately greeted by the old man's furious bellow upon entering, and there was even the sound of things being kicked over. "A bunch of ingrates. Look at how you usually pretend to be very close with this old man, but now that this old man wants to borrow some money, every single one of you run faster than a dog. Don't let this old man see you guys in the future. Borrow money. Young Luo Feng was stupefied for a moment before entering and perusing the mess in the study. A wicked smile emerged on her face. Grandfather, what is this about? Why are you in such a temper? HMPH, this is all because of that bunch of bastards, especially a few of them. I've helped them in the past, but now that I am having difficulties and look for them to borrow some money, all of them actually refuse. The old man was still in the throes of his rage, his mustache was quivering disorderly as he cursed out in anger. Why do you need to borrow money? Are the 45 million taels that I had them put into the treasury not enough? What 45 million? The old man was about to continue to curse when he suddenly recovered his wits. His eyes unwaveringly stared at young Luo Feng, his breath quickening. What did you just say? Our family has 45 million taels. Chapter 47. Identity Discovered 1. Young Luo Feng looked at the old man in astonishment. You didn't know? Her expression was as though she was actually shocked that the old man was unaware of this matter. Didn't Qingyan inform you? Yesterday, Mu Shen sent me 45 million taels, so I already had her bring it to the treasury to replenish it. An odd silence dawned. Following young Luo Feng's words, the grim atmosphere in the study abruptly settled. Young Luo stared unwaveringly at the young girl in front of him, even his breathing became ragged. Fenger, can you explain to me what this matter is all about? No one knew of the incessant tempestuous emotion in the old man's heart. He had to use all of his strength to suppress his heart from almost jumping out. Despite this, his shaking body still betrayed his internal turmoil. Grandfather, young Luo Feng lifted her head, staring at the old man's twitching, aged face. Her face did not have her usual bewitching charm and was replaced with solemnity. My parents' enmities, I will definitely avenge them. The first step to this revenge is the Prime Minister Mu estate, and so when Mu Shen came to find me to treat his illness, I mercilessly extorted him. And this is just the beginning. This was just the beginning. From now on, she would make the Prime Minister estate gradually decline and would also stomp the imperial power underneath her foot. Of course, to prevent frightening this old man, young Luo Feng did not speak this sentence out loud. Ha ha ha, the old man was stunned for a long while, and then he wildly guffawed. How many years had it been since he was this smooth and unhindered? Ever since Fenger's parents died, he had been continually living within this stifling oppression. Now, his own precious granddaughter had actually mercilessly swindled the Prime Minister estate. If the Prime Minister knew, he would definitely be angered to half-death. Young Luo Feng shrugged. You still haven't told me what are you borrowing money for? Hearing this, the old man's expression suddenly became grave. Precious granddaughter, you still didn't know. Recently, a dose of spirit-gathering medicinal liquid appeared at the medical pavilion. Just this single dose has so many nobles and aristocrats wanting to buy it. Of course, grandfather is unwilling to fall behind, and this is why grandfather is currently going everywhere to borrow money to buy this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? Young Luo Feng was stunned. She did not think that her grandfather was actually borrowing money to help her buy a dose of spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. In that moment, a thread of warmth spread through her heart. I don't need that spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Looking at the expression of the old man while talking about the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, young Luo Feng deliberated for a bit before deciding against informing this old man for now lest the old man's heart could not bear this kind of stimulation. You silly girl, what nonsense are you saying? Our family has this much money now, so I will obtain this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid no matter what. Young Luo glared at young Luo Feng and unhappily stated. Young Luo Feng helplessly smiled. She sold the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid for 10 million taels, so how could she allow this old man to spend twice the price to buy it back? Wouldn't that be a huge business loss? Take a look at my strength. Fenger, don't make trouble. This matter, what grandfather said is. The last word, final, was halted. Young Luo was frightened when he inadvertently took a look. His whole body became stiff, and his eyes widened as he dumbfoundedly stared at young Luo Feng in disbelief. Early level intermediate rank spirit cultivator, you broke through. 5 days ago, this girl was still an early level spirit low rank cultivator, and in that short span of 5 days, she actually broke through to intermediate rank. Bullshit. How was this a trash? This was obviously a genius among geniuses. Grandfather, do you think that with my speed you still need to go buy the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? Young Luo Feng crossed her arms in front of her chest and bewitchingly smiled at young Luo. And then, under his bewildered look, she turned around to leave. Chapter 48. Identity Discovered 2. Young miss, Mu Shen has been waiting for you the entire morning. As young Luo Feng stepped out of the study, the maidservant, Qingyan, came up and hurriedly reported. Letting him wait half a day isn't inconvenient, young Luo Feng grinned wickedly, lifting her hands to pinch Qingyan's little, apple-like cheeks. And then, under the maid's aggrieved look, she walked towards the rear court. Let's go and take care of Mu Shen's matter faster, I still have other things to do. Rear court. Mu Shen anxiously paced back and forth and kept wandering about. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of that peerlessly exquisite young lady walking while facing the sunlight. His eyes brightening, he almost threw himself down to kneel and lick. Godly doctor, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Young Luo Feng cast him a sidelong glance. Do you have complaints about waiting too long? I wouldn't dare to have complaints. Mu Shen was so frightened that his entire body trembled and hastily said, even if godly doctor had me wait for a month, I still wouldn't dare to have complaints against you. Can we start treating my illness now? Young Luo Feng stepped into the room and said without turning her head, come inside. After today, you can be the same as any normal man. Mu Shen was stunned. He initially thought that even if she treated him, it would still take a while. He did not think that it would be different with godly doctor undertaking this task and actually only needed 1 day. Thinking of this, his mood instantly turned feverish, and he hurriedly entered the room. For a long time, the medical pavilion's front yard was as busy as a marketplace. High-ranking ministers and nobles of Long Yuan Kingdom all blocked the entrance of the medical pavilion, causing the guards inside the medical pavilion to rush out to maintain order. General Yun, you actually really came here. I heard your young clan's savings have already been completely squandered away by young Luo Feng. It even led to you being angered to insanity by her. In the end, you still have the nerve to come to medical pavilion. Haha, I say, you are just wasting your strength. Buying a spirit-gathering medicinal liquid for young Luo Feng would only be a waste. Amidst the crowd, a sharp-eyed unknown person spotted young Luo and could not resist laughing out loud. Young Luo's expression was unsightly, but he stood still without making a sound. Although young Luo Feng already made him give up on the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, he really could not reconcile to that. What's more, his granddaughter now had such a fearsome innate skill, and if you added the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, it would definitely be twice the effect with half the effort. Unfortunately, young Luo Feng did not think young Luo would still be this stubborn. Otherwise, perhaps she would have said something about the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. With my mandate, there won't be anyone lending money to General Yun. Only, I don't know why would General Yun still come here. Crown Prince Gao Lin looked at young Luo, his eyes slightly sinking, the bottom of his eyes flashing with a fierce light. He turned to look at the young lady in yellow clothes beside him and asked tenderly, Wushuang, your complexion today doesn't look so good, did something happen? It's nothing. Mu Wushuang shook her head lightly, her eyelids drooping. She did not tell His Highness the Crown Prince that just this morning, her grandfather, Prime Minister Mu, originally wanted to use the treasury's money to buy the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid for her. Who knew that the treasury would suddenly be burglarized? They lost an entire 45 million taels. And this actually comprised of the majority of the Prime Minister estate's wealth from all these years. After everything that had happened, it would be strange if her complexion looked good. Wushuang, you can tell this Crown Prince anything, this Crown Prince will stand up for you. Gao Lin affectionately gazed at Mu Wushuang, a streak of absent-mindedness traveling through his eyes. Only a woman this outstanding deserved someone who was as excellent as him. Young Luo Feng, that trash, was not qualified to be his wife. Chapter 49. Identity Discovered 3. Crown Prince, Wushuang really is fine. It's just that last night, I didn't sleep at all because I was choosing an excellent husband for young Luo Feng, so now, I am slightly fatigued. Also, I'm worried that young Luo Feng's standards are too high and afraid that she won't accept the husband that I chose for her. Of course, Mu Wushuang would not tell Crown Prince what occurred at the Prime Minister estate, so she naturally pushed everything onto young Luo Feng. After Gao Ling heard Mu Wushuang's words, his complexion darkened a few degrees. You are worrying and working yourself to exhaustion because of her, she would not dare to be this ungrateful. Being a mere trash, what right does she have to have high standards? Wushuang, I believe in your ability, so after you choose a suitable candidate, I will let Father Emperor announce an imperial decree to bestow marriage. Even if she doesn't want to abide, she must abide. As a trash, how could she have the right to be picky? It's already quite good that someone was willing to marry her. If it weren't for Wushuang making a decision on this matter for her, in this current world, who would be willing to take a trash for a wife? While Gao Lin and Mu Wushuang conversed, he did not forget to give a few eye signal toward a few people present, indicating for them to continue making things difficult for Yun Luo. Ordinarily, with Yun Luo's strength and status, they would not dare to go overboard, but after receiving His Highness the Crown Prince's hint, all of them stood forward in order to ingratiate themselves with the future ruler of the kingdom and wore a righteous expression to face Yun Luo. General Yun, I say, you are really not too generous. Using the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid on Yun Luofeng, the trash is simply a waste. It's better to leave it to those who need it. So I urge you to give up on competing with us. In Long Yuan Kingdom, besides the high-ranking officials and nobles, there were still 4 major clans. Surprisingly, the person who said these words was Lin Ying, the family head of Lin clan from the 4 major clans. Bullshit, who did you fucking say is trash? Yun Luo was so angry that his beard erratically shook, both of his eyes were glaring ferociously at Lin Ying. My granddaughter is more outstanding than anyone. Whoever says this general's granddaughter is trash again, this general will make them get lost from here. Lin Ying was startled by this old man's imposing aura but remembered that Crown Prince was present, so this old man would not dare to be impudent. Thus, he mustered up his courage to say, General Yun, is this you becoming mad from shame, or is it because I touched a sore spot? Haha, who doesn't know that Long Yuan Kingdom's #1 genius belongs to His Highness the Crown Prince, and Prime Minister Estates Mu Wushuang's innate skill is also on par with Crown Prince. Besides these 2 people, who else can be labeled with the word, outstanding? The old man's body trembled, clenching his fists, a powerful aura was emitted from his body. However, at this moment, a bewitching voice was heard from behind him, making his body suddenly freeze. Didn't I already say, I don't need this medicinal liquid, so why did you still come? This voice, a string of helplessness intertwined with its wickedness, caused the old man to involuntarily turn his head, his sight landing on the figure of the white-clothed young lady. Fenger, why did you come? I came to buy medicinal herbs. Yun Luofeng's words were the truth. The medical pavilion kept a record of the medicinal herbs it sold. As a result, yesterday, after she sold the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, it was inconvenient for her to continue buying medicinal herbs. Otherwise, her identity would be discovered from the medicinal herbs that she normally purchased. General Yun, I can see that your granddaughter is actually more sensible. She knows that she is a trash and that using the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid on her will only be a waste. You should go back to rest instead. Why waste money? Lin Ying loudly laughed twice, his disdainful and contemptuous glance sweeping across Yun Luofeng's absolutely gorgeous countenance. What use was it for a woman to be this beautiful? Wasn't she still an impressive-looking but useless flower vase? No man would be willing to place a vase like this in their house. Chapter 50. Identity Discovered 4. What happened here? Why did you start arguing? Just then, a seductive-to-the-bone voice was heard, making all the men present feel their bone limp and numb, their entire body powerless. Fang Ya walked over under everyone's vulgar gaze, charmingly lifting the corner of her mouth, and her provocative look rippled with strong amorous feelings. Her every frown and every smile displayed 10,000 different types of flirtatious expressions. HMPH, it is merely this trash from General Yun Estate. As someone with a rubbish constitution, she still dares to come to the medical pavilion to forcibly seize the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. We just don't want the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid to be spoiled by this trash, which is why we want her to scram. You came just in time, you should kick this trash out. Fang Ya slightly raised her brows, her sight landing on Yun Luofeng. Lightly lifting the corner of her lips, she approached the young lady. Anyone who comes as a guest. Our medical pavilion has never had a habit of refusing customers, especially a great beauty like this. Tut-tut, I say, in Long Yuan Kingdom, not a single woman's appearance can compare to this girl's. Mu Wushuang's eyes darkened, obviously disliking Fang Ya's words. What's with this Yun Luofeng as Long Yuan Kingdom's #1 beauty? She, Mu Wuxuang, was worse than this fool. This smell is quite fragrant. Fang Ya moved in front of Yun Luofeng, lightly sniffing, a charming smile appeared on her seductive face. What she was obviously doing was crude, but it was pleasing like this when one looked at it. Since you came here to buy medicinal herbs, come with me first. Yun Luofeng nodded. She walked over to Yun Luo's side, wickedly raising the corner of her lips. A dose of spirit-gathering medicinal liquids prices 20 million gold coins. It is too expensive. If you want to buy this spirit-gathering medicinal liquid, then we will suffer a huge loss of money, so go back first and wait for me, and I will give you a surprise. After she gave it a thought, Yun Luofeng decided to disclose the matter of the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Even if this old guy could not handle it, it was still better than him paying this much to buy the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Hee, Gao Ling evidently heard Yun Luofeng's voice and chuckled in derision. Yun Luofeng, after you unsuccessfully committed suicide, even though you are not as irritating as before, you are too arrogant. You actually said buying the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid for 20 million is too expensive. And even suffer a big loss. Let me tell you, even if it is 30 million taels, there would still be someone willing to buy it. Only an ignorant person like you would deem the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid too expensive. As though Yun Luofeng did not hear Gao Ling's words, she nonchalantly walked into the medical pavilion. Yun Luofeng, who was walking ahead, did not notice that before Fang Ya left, she glanced at Gao Ling as though he was an idiot. Your Highness the Crown Prince. After seeing his own granddaughter leave, Yun Luo's complexion darkened. Don't think that I don't know why the ministers of the imperial court weren't willing to lend me money. I originally wanted to endure it for a period of time to maintain peace, but I didn't think that you would keep going too far. You are looking down on my granddaughter this much today, but you will deeply regret it one day. Deeply regret it? The Crown Prince coldly chuckled. Abandoning Yun Luofeng was the most correct decision that he had ever made. He would never regret it. These are the medicinal herbs that I require today. After entering the medical pavilion, Yun Luofeng took out a piece of paper and placed it in front of Fang Ya. Fang Ya smiled, accepting the paper that Yun Luofeng handed over, and while making eye contact at her, she said, you helped our medical pavilion earn this much money, so I won't accept money for these medicinal herbs of yours. We will give it to you at no cost. Yun Luofeng looked at Fang Ya with shock. What do you mean? Had her identity been discovered? Impossible. This was just her second time being in contact with Fang Ya, so how could she be discovered by her?